Get out quickly, before those people find you! Hurry! A young clerk says this as she pulls my arm and pushes me out of the store. It seems like she's a part-time worker, a girl who, while worried about the situation inside the store, is hurrying me out. Today, I came to a certain restaurant. It was to meet my precious daughter, who was taken by my ex-husband Darren when we divorced. I couldn't hide my anger at having this rare chance to see her, which I only get once a month, interrupted by a stranger, a clerk. Hey, what's going on? I try to shake off the clerk, who grabbed my arm, only to realize her hand is trembling. Please calm down and listen. The thing is, that parent and child are... I am Brianna, a 37-year-old mother of an only daughter. I'm divorced from my husband, Darren. My daughter lives with my economically well-off ex-husband, Darren. Her name is Ashley, and she's turning 13. I was dating Darren, who was older than me, when I was a student, and married him at the age of 22 after graduating from college. We met at a party. I was invited to a party by a close friend, where I met Darren. His looks were decent. Being older, he had a calm demeanor, and I was attracted to his thoughtfulness at times, and his smile when he laughed. We all exchanged contacts, but Darren was the first to reach out. I really had fun today. Thanks to Brianna, it was a meaningful time. Thank you. I still remember my heart racing just from that text. It didn't take long for me to start dating Darren. On dates, he always took the lead, and more importantly, we could have a fun time together, smiling. The proposal wasn't anything flashy like a flash mob or renting out a church, but rather it happened at a hotel during a trip. When we went to report our marriage to Darren's family, his mother, Kathy, seemed like a very nice person. The wedding was a small affair with just family. I didn't want a showy wedding either, so it was very comfortable for me. Kathy was very happy about it too, and I felt glad to be becoming part of the family. Even after marriage, Darren was a very reliable husband. Our married life was progressing smoothly, and at the age of 23, we were blessed with a child. Wanting to prioritize our child, Darren and I decided that I would quit my job and have a calm pregnancy, living with Kathy at Darren's family home. Pregnancy was more challenging than I thought. Morning sickness was severe, and as my belly grew, my back and legs started hurting. Quitting my job felt like the right decision. I deeply respected all women who work while pregnant. Despite the challenges, my early pregnancy at the in-laws' went smoothly. That's because Kathy was genuinely happy about my pregnancy. Brianna, take care of yourself and have a healthy baby. You should avoid caffeine. It's not good for the baby, she would say, always looking out for me. When I felt well, I helped out at Kathy's restaurant. Things changed after I got used to the challenging pregnancy life and found out the baby's gender. We found out the baby's gender. The doctor says it's likely a girl. Really? I thought it was going to be a boy. I really wanted him to inherit the business. A girl can't do that. That's when Kathy started to treat me differently. Rather, her treatment became worse, and she started to act as if I were a burden. Moreover, even though the child wasn't born yet, "Next time, have a boy," she would say. Darren seemed to share the same sentiment, becoming colder towards me around that time. He was clearly disappointed that it was a girl. Pregnancy life from there was painful. More than worrying about my belly, I had to be careful around Kathy and Darren. Then our lovely daughter was born. What a beautiful child! Thank you for being born. I was so happy I couldn't stop crying. However, upon returning to the in-laws' after being discharged, "Next it has to be a boy. We can't hand over the business to a girl. Brianna, make sure it's a boy next time. Let me know as soon as your period starts again." Kathy said this without even glancing at the daughter I was holding. I had been prepared for this kind of reaction, having been told so many times before. but to see it firsthand from my first grandchild was unexpectedly harsh. Not knowing how to respond to Kathy's disinterest, I looked towards Darren. "Just like Mom says, considering the store, we need a son. Have a boy next time," he said, nodding with a pompous look. I couldn't hide my dismay. What was this man talking about? Even though he had no intention of taking over the store and worked at a company, why was it always our child who had to take over? I knew they both wanted a boy, and I understood their desire for another child, but why treat our daughter in front of them as if she didn't exist? At this rate, my daughter would be treated like heir, even by her grandmother and real father. If a boy was born, I knew he would be treated poorly. Thinking this, I began to consider divorce. I made the decision to leave the house to protect my child. The next day, I started looking for places on the web. I really wanted to leave this house. I had no one to rely on, but I felt it was better to raise Ashley alone than to continue living this way. I didn't care where we lived, but since I was familiar with it, I decided to look in the city where I lived alone during my single days. However, finding a home was not easy. Employment information was needed for the contract, but no company would hire me with a newborn. Moreover, the company I had previously worked for said to come back when the child was older, so I couldn't get a housing contract. Still, I managed to find an apartment and intended to pack up and leave with my daughter. One time, as Darren passed by, he saw my mobile phone screen and said, "Why are you looking for a house? I have no intention of moving. I plan to live with my daughter from now on. I can't stand living in this house anymore. Darren, please divorce me." I told him. Then Darren said, "What are you talking about? You haven't had a boy yet. First of all, how will you manage living expenses? Are you going to look for a job while holding a newborn? Do you think you can live with a child while being unemployed?" I planned to manage until I found a full-time job with the savings I had before quitting and work from home. "Fine, if that's what you want. I'll give you a divorce, but there will be no division of property. If you're okay with that, I'll divorce you." Darren finally agreed to a divorce, so I prepared to find the next house and move out happily. Then, one day, when I was about to sign the divorce papers and submit them with Ashley, I couldn't find Ashley anywhere in the house. "Hey, where's Ashley? Where did she go?" "I won't give up Ashley. It can't be helped. She's also a candidate for succession." "What do you mean? That's not what we agreed on." "If you have a complaint, let's settle it in court. Think you can win the custody battle as an unemployed?" I clenched my back teeth at Darren's words. Eventually, Darren and I couldn't agree, and it really came to a custody battle. During that time, I couldn't divorce, and Kathy and Darren didn't hide their malicious attitude towards me. The custody battle, which took 6 months, ended in my loss. I had savings, but moving used up a significant amount, and now I was unemployed. Being unemployed for 6 months limited my options for childcare, and as I began looking for work, I was a low priority. On the other hand, Darren was financially stable, and Kathy was there during the day. Even though she ran a restaurant, she wasn't always in the kitchen or store. And Kathy could handle taking Ashley to and from nursery in the future. Considering Ashley's well-being, it was judged that living with Darren and them was better. Deemed unfit by my public institutions to raise Ashley, I was driven out of my in-laws' house in despair. I sat in my small apartment, hugging my knees and crying for hours, then resolved anew to get a stable job and stabilize my life. Then try again to regain custody of Ashley. The job hunting that initially didn't go well finally succeeded because I didn't give up, thinking, for Ashley. After successfully receiving a job offer in sales and completing my training, I contacted my ex-husband, Darren. "I've got a new job and my life is stabilizing, so Please, let me take our daughter. The court ruled in our favor. If you want to change the custody, you have to apply again. Ashley is trying hard to get used to this life, and here you are, thinking only about yourself. Well, I'll allow visits. Once a month should be enough. Initially, I was speechless at Darren's words, but I continued to pay $300 in child support every month for Ashley's sake and looked forward to our monthly visits. The baby Ashley showed me a new side of herself with each visit as she grew. While I was happy to see her growth, it was truly frustrating not to be able to witness it by her side. The time I spent with Ashley was genuinely happy for me. I didn't want to miss out on her growing up anymore. Working hard to see Ashley, my life became about just that. As time passed, Ashley grew. She began to speak in 2 to 3 word sentences and started to walk unsteadily after holding on to things. By then, my income had increased, and I told Darren again that I wanted to take Ashley back. However, Darren said, "With that income, it's impossible to raise her stably. Do you plan to leave her somewhere all day while you work? At our house, even if I'm not there, Mom is. And she's popular at the shop because she's cute. Working from morning till night and only seeing her at night? That's a sad life. What a terrible mother." He refused to hand over custody. When I called Darren to see Ashley, now a school-age child, "I have time to see Ashley this Sunday." Ashley said she has plans with friends that day, so it seems she can't meet. "Can we make it another day then?" "I'm busy too, so this month that was the only day. Let's try next month." He declined. I wanted to see Ashley. I didn't want to miss her growing up anymore. Sometimes I wondered what Ashley thought about all this. She's no longer just a cute toddler. She has her own will, and she's starting to become rebellious. Does she want to see a mother who hasn't been able to raise her properly? I was plagued with such insecurities. I figured it was a time when a school-age child would want to play with friends. Inevitable. From that day, visits with Ashley gradually became irregular and less frequent. Scheduled dates were often broken at the last minute because she wanted to play with friends or had lessons. I was anxious, but wondered if forcing her to meet when she didn't want to was really what a mother should do. For now, I focused on earning a stable income that would satisfy Darren, hoping to live with my child someday. Dreaming only of that, I worked and saved money steadily. But as Ashley became a junior high student, she became busy with clubs and studies, making it harder to meet. While continuing to pay child support, I never failed to save for a life with Ashley. I reached my limit. I wanted to see her, even if just for a little bit. I wanted to talk. Reaching my breaking point, I called Darren. "Can't you make some time for us to meet? I haven't seen her at all since she started junior high." "Hey, are you really using the child support for Ashley? Not just for yourself? If I can't see how Ashley is doing, I might consider consulting the appropriate authorities. I understand you and Ashley are busy, but since it's only once a month, I'd like you to make some time." After a pause, Darren said, "Okay, I'll check with Ashley, so wait a bit." And with that, he ended the call that day. A few days later, I received a message that we could meet at a nearby restaurant for a short while after Ashley's exams, before she went to her cram school. I was truly looking forward to meeting Ashley. It had been a long time since our last reunion. I wondered what would be a good present for Ashley, now a junior high student. Just thinking about it made my heart leap. I worked hard for that day. On the day of our meeting, I arrived at the nearest station an hour earlier than the scheduled 2 p.m. and spent the time browsing a nearby department store, feeling more nervous than ever. The joy of meeting after so long and wondering what kind of conversation I would have with Ashley, now a middle schooler, was mixed with the fear that she might think meeting with me wasn't worth skipping her time with friends. What if my rebellious daughter gave me a cold response, different from before? What if we ended up not talking at all, just looking at our mobile phones? Should I say something about it? The more time I had, the more I overthought everything. I regretted arriving too early, wishing I had timed it exactly when it was 1:40 p.m. It's a bit early, but maybe it's okay to go now. 1:45 p.m. I entered the restaurant we were supposed to meet 15 minutes early. A young part-time worker, wearing a mask and with long hair covering her eyes, greeted me. Welcome! I'm a bit early, but I have a meeting at 2 p.m. After giving my name and mentioning Darren and Ashley, "You are," the worker said, then looked as if she was about to cry, and said, "Run away now, before you're found, quickly!" I was bewildered. What do you mean? The person you think is your daughter isn't actually your child. She's Layla, a child not related to you by blood. Confused by what she was saying, "This way." She led me outside through the back door of the store. It might be hard to believe, but that child is Layla, the child of Darren's current wife. I was lost for words. When did he remarried? It wouldn't be strange for him to have remarried over the years. There's no obligation for an ex-husband to report his marriage to his ex-wife. As I thought this, the worker frowned and looked at me determinedly. "Did you know that Darren was having an affair while you were married?" What? I was shocked. That person, who was always with Kathy, had time for such a thing? At the same time, I doubted the truth of what this girl was saying. As I hesitated, she continued. "It seems he was two-timing before he met you. After you divorced, Darren immediately married his affair partner. Layla is now a high school student. So, the child you've been meeting for the past few years is Layla, born from Darren's affair, not your daughter." I needed time to process everything in my head. A lot of information is going through my head. Affair. The child is Layla, not my Ashley. Then, where is my daughter? Confused, I asked her, "How do you know such private details?" "Layla is my senior here, working part-time. She boasted about how she and her dad have been deceiving you. I heard about Darren's affair and how you've been paying child support for a fake daughter from Layla." Wiping away my tears at the worker's last words, I decided what I needed to do next and quickly left through the back door. I called the police, and after waiting 10 minutes, I headed to confront Darren and Layla with the officers. I had informed the police that I was a victim of fraud, that the perpetrators were here, and asked for them to come quickly. Heading back to the entrance of the store, this time not alone but with the officers. The staff, surprised to see the police, different from the one I met earlier, wore a manager badge. I explained the situation and approached the table where Darren and Layla were waiting. Darren, irritated by my absence at the scheduled time, noticed me and was about to express his anger, but instantly changed this expression upon seeing the officer next to me. I said as if nothing happened, "Sorry to keep you waiting." "What's going on? Did something happen?" Darren was visibly shaken. "I just needed to verify something, so I asked for the police's assistance." Darren looked at Layla, then silently gestured for me to sit. The officer stood in a position where he could see all three of us. "So I'd like to ask you." Before the officer could continue, I cut in. "Who is this child? Is she really mine?" Unable to contain my emotions any longer, I confronted Darren with what I had heard. With the officer mediating, Layla remained silent, looking down the whole time. "That's just a made-up story. This child is yours. Right, Ashley?" Layla nodded with a charming smile and called me Mom. "Could you please show us your daughter's student ID?" The officer asked calmly, causing Layla and Darren to visibly panic and become flustered. When the officer kindly asked again to see the student ID, Layla, with a face about to cry, slowly took out the student ID from her wallet in her bag. The student ID clearly had the high school's name and Layla written on it. This child was not Ashley. Seeing that student ID, I broke down in tears, wondering how I could have failed to notice. I had thought for a while that my daughter's demeanor had changed. Books say that as children grow, their faces change, and I convinced myself that it was natural for her to look different from when she was born, but I had doubted it because she didn't resemble me much. However, since she looked a lot like Darren, I convinced myself she was just like her father. I didn't want to bring up this doubt and risk not being allowed to see her. The frustration and shame of not recognizing my own child made me cry. Darren seemed resigned. He opened up. Actually, Ashley wanted to live with you. She kept saying she wanted to see Mom. You always said you wanted to take her, and if we let her see you, she seemed likely to follow you. Then we wouldn't get the monthly child support anymore, right? Even $300 was a fixed income we appreciated. I was astonished. You did this for money? Because Mom's store was struggling. A little bit of money couldn't be used for the store's renovation, but it helped our living expenses. But I'm sorry, okay? That should be enough, right? There's no way I can forgive this. Give me and Ashley our time back. Ugh, come on. How much do you want? $500? Don't joke with me. You say you're bringing my daughter and then bring someone else? I'll sue you for fraud, I declared. However, Darren's face visibly tensed at the mention of a lawsuit. It's not like I stole anything, so it can't be fraud. The child support was for the child, and I used that money for her living expenses. You didn't even realize Layla wasn't your real daughter, and now you're acting all high and mighty. Besides, are you sure you want to say that? You might never see Ashley again. Darren said this confidently, perhaps as a threat, smirking in a way that was disgusting. I responded to Darren confidently and clearly. It's okay, I've already seen Ashley. When? How? Darren slumped his shoulders, as if waiting for this moment. The part-time worker who had taken me to the back door earlier approached. Seeing the worker, Darren's face turned pale and he grimaced. Indeed, the young part-time worker who had led me to the back door was my daughter, Ashley. After being taken to the back door and hearing about Layla, the worker lifted her hair near her eyes and removed her mask, saying, I've been waiting for you, Mom. I'm Ashley. What? Was the child I thought was my daughter Layla and this worker in front of me, Ashley? My mind was in a panic. However, this child, who removed her mask and lifted her hair, resembled me in some way. Her height and hair texture were similar, but that was it. Ashley took out her wallet from her pocket and showed me her student ID, which clearly had Ashley's name on it. Really, Ashley? Yes, Mom, I've missed you. Saying so, Ashley clung to me. This smell. This sensation. It reminded me of when I held newborn Ashley. The grown Ashley would be entirely different from the 0-year-old. However, as a mother, I was convinced by an inexplicable sensation that the child clinging to me was Ashley. I hugged Ashley tightly. We both cried. I asked Ashley about her life. This restaurant was run by Kathy, and Ashley, who had been living with Darren's family, was made to work hard here. With the restaurant struggling, Kathy, reluctant to spend on labor, trained Ashley as one of the employees. She worked her every day, paying her a small daily wage late at night, claiming it as her pay. However, Ashley was charged for everything, even for meals and showers. Ashley lived with Kathy, Darren, Layla, and Layla's mom, a total of 5 people, and seemed to have been treated terribly. Layla's attitude was particularly bad, constantly mocking Ashley for not being able to go anywhere and harassing her, reveling in her status as the loved child. Because of this, Ashley was never allowed out of the house whenever I was nearby, just in case we might meet. That's why she wasn't supposed to be at the store today. Ashley was only here today because one of the few employees had fallen ill and couldn't come in, and the manager had called her in. Moreover, the manager did not know about Ashley and Layla's relationship. Kathy also didn't know about today's scheduled visitation, which had been arranged a few days ago. Without telling Kathy, Ashley had come to work, acting as if nothing was unusual, and had taken the initiative to man the reception, planning to meet me. Darren cursed at Kathy, but quickly became defiant. "You met her, didn't you? So it's all good now, right? Since you met, it's not fraud. You really went to the trouble of calling the police?" Ugh. He laughingly mocked at us, making me want to sigh. But from here on, it was the police's job. The officer spoke to Darren, and then to Kathy, who had been called out from the back and had been watching. "There's no mistake you employed Ashley and paid her a salary, right?" "Of course. We didn't make her work for nothing. We paid her wages. Kind, aren't we? Is there a problem?" "I see. Ashley, may we see your student ID, please?" Surprised by the sudden question from the police, Ashley showed her student ID. It unmistakably had the name of her middle school and Ashley's name on it. The officer frowned and told Kathy and Darren they needed to come to the station. The two were stunned as the officer spoke to them in a low, careful voice. "It's illegal to employ a 13-year-old middle school student. If it was unpaid help around the house, it might be different. But paying a salary, that makes it employment, doesn't it? It might be considered an allowance, so it's not outright illegal. Middle school students can be allowed to deliver newspapers, for example. But helping in a food service establishment is a bit... Anyway, we'd like to hear the full story, so please come with us." The two stood frozen as the officer led them slowly to the police car and then left. Afterward, Kathy and Darren were arrested under the Child Welfare Act. While careful verification was underway regarding whether Ashley was truly an employee, their day-to-day living conditions were undeniably illegal. When Darren was arrested, Layla's mom took her daughter and fled, as if running away. They are currently going through a divorce with Darren. With no adults left in Ashley's home, I finally gained custody of Ashley. Seizing this opportunity, I rented a suitable apartment for the two of us to start our new life together. I make sure to finish work as early as possible so I won't be late for dinner with Ashley. Ashley has gotten used to her new school life, telling me about her friends, teachers, and the badminton club she wanted to join, among other things. Of course, she talks about her studies too. "Math is really hard, isn't it? Were you good at math, Mom?" Ashley asked me. I was more of a science person, so I was okay at math, but not so much with social studies. "Then can you help me with this part? Let me see. This problem here is..." As I wrote down equations in her notebook, I explained how to solve them to Ashley. "Oh, I see. So that's how you solve it. Thank you. This was my ideal, being able to ask about something I didn't understand at school, and then bragging to my friends the next day that I could do it. I never had that at home before. I'm counting on you from now on, Mom." Such ordinary days are so precious to me that they bring tears to my eyes. While it's regrettable that I couldn't be by my daughter's side for many years, I'm determined to continue striving to ensure she can live a happy life from now on. For now, I just want to enjoy our reunited parent-child life after so many years.